Olivia Caldwell never imagined that one night, one moment, would shake the ground beneath everything she'd built. The ballroom of the Crescent Hotel shimmered under amber chandeliers, the kind that made every guest look a little richer, a little more powerful. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Dallas skyline, sparkling like a city holding its breath. The air carried that familiar mix of champagne, success, and quiet ambition. Tonight belonged to her. Reporters swarmed the stage, camera flashes firing like stardust as Olivia stepped into the spotlight. Her silver-gray dress glinted with every pulse of light, making her look like she was carved from confidence and steel. This was the night she sealed an $800 million deal with Trident Infrastructure Holdings, her biggest triumph, the one that would crown her one of the most influential CEOs in Texas. Investors, political figures, industry giants, every eye watched her. She was a woman who took sketches scribbled on diner napkins and turned them into skyscrapers. And somewhere near the back, almost swallowed by the crowd, sat Hunter Caldwell, her husband, quiet, unassuming, dressed in a simple navy suit that didn't brag about price or power. His hands were folded, his expression gentle, unreadable. Hunter never fought for the spotlight. He'd always been the one cheering Olivia from the shadows, the man she used to call her rock, and sometimes behind closed doors her weakness, her too-decent-for-business husband. When the host announced the start of the signing ceremony, the room erupted in applause. Olivia's smile gleamed, polished, poised, perfect. As she stepped off the stage, Hunter rose and walked toward her, holding a glass of champagne like a quiet offering. "I'm proud of you, Liv," he said softly. "You worked hard for this." Her smile flickered, just a fraction. "Hunter, what are you doing here? I want to see you sign. To support you." Some of her colleagues glanced over. Olivia stiffened, the way someone does when a secret embarrassment walks into the room. "That's sweet," she said through a tight laugh, "but this is a corporate event. You can congratulate me at home." You thought wrong," she snapped before you finish. The tables around them fell into uneasy silence. "These people make billion-dollar decisions," she whispered sharply. "They don't live in your world." A waiter froze mid-pour. Conversations died mid-sentence. The shift in the air was sharp enough to feel. Hunter's eyes softened, not with weakness, but with something deeper, hurt hidden behind calm. "I'm not trying to embarrass you," he murmured. "I just wanted to stand with you. For a moment." But pride has sharp edges, and Olivia let every one of them cut. She lifted her glass of red wine, her voice growing colder with every word. "Stand with me? Hunter, you can barely stand for yourself. You're unworthy to be in my elite circle. Look at you, poor, ordinary, forgettable. These people wear power. You wear failure." Someone gasped. A camera clicked. Then it happened. The wine left her glass in a crimson arc, splashing across his face in a cold, deliberate strike. It ran down his cheek, soaked his collar, and dripped onto the marble floor. The room went silent. So silent the music itself seemed to freeze. She leaned in. "Next time, remember your place." Hunter didn't raise his voice, didn't flinch, didn't wipe the wine right away. He simply reached into his pocket, pulled out a handkerchief, and cleaned his face once, slowly, with a kind of dignity that made the entire hall feel suddenly ashamed. "Understood," he said quietly, and he walked away. Every footstep echoed across the marble as the crowd parted, no one daring to meet his eyes. The door closed behind him, leaving the applause and glittering celebration behind. Olivia lifted her chin, pretending her heart wasn't pounding. "Let's continue," she said lightly, tossing her empty glass away. "My husband gets emotional around success." Laughter rose, awkward and strained. Cameras resumed flashing. She smiled as if nothing had happened. But outside, her world was already breaking, under the soft glow of the hotel lights. Hunter stopped on the steps and pulled out his phone. His expression wasn't angry. It wasn't sad. It was decided. He pressed the first number. "Pierce speaking," a crisp voice answered. "Terminate the contract," Hunter said. Calm. Final. "Yes, sir." Effective immediately. "I'll announce it now." He hung up and scrolled to the next. "Hayes speaking." Withdraw all Black Elm Capital funding from Caldwell Design Group. Hunter instructed. Every account. Every subsidiary. Yes, Mr. Caldwell. Confirmation will be sent to your private email. Tap. Call ended. He lifted his eyes toward the skyline again, the city lights reflecting off his still damp collar. Inside, the orchestra played a soft celebration melody. Inside, Olivia believed she was rising. But the truth was already set in motion. She had no idea the man she'd humiliated owned the very company that had just pulled her $800 million lifeline. No idea that the husband she belittled controlled the funding she depended on. No idea that her cruelest moment had triggered the quietest, most devastating storm of her life. And it was already on its way. It wouldn't last another 5 minutes. Hunter slipped his phone back into his pocket, straightened the front of his jacket, and walked toward his car with quiet certainty of someone who had already made his decision. Inside the ballroom, applause swelled again like nothing had happened. Olivia lifted her chin, smiled for the cameras, and bathed in the glow of her triumph. The host's voice boomed across the hall with theatrical pride. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight marks a historic partnership worth $800 million between two of the most dynamic firms in the nation. Let's hear it for the visionary leading this new era. The room erupted. Cameras flashed. Glasses clinked. Olivia's pen glimmered between her fingers, hovering above the gold-trimmed folder. Mrs. Caldwell, the host said, offering her the final document. If you'll do the honors. Olivia smiled wider, soaking in the moment. It's an honor, a moment we poured years into. She lowered her pen toward the signature line. That's when it happened. A man in a charcoal suit hurried through the tables, phone pressed to his ear, his face draining of color with every step. An assistant whispered something urgently to him, and he stiffened. Then he headed straight for the stage, his footsteps cutting through the applause like a blade. The host stuttered mid-sentence as the man leaned in, murmuring something too low to catch. The host went still. The crowd sensed it instantly. Murmurs began to rise. Olivia's smile vanished. Is there a problem? The man straightened, cleared his throat, and delivered the blow carefully, as if the words themselves were heavy. We received an order from the executive office. The contract signing is suspended. Her pen froze midair. Suspended? What are you talking about? I'm sorry, ma'am, he said, voice trembling at the edges. The directive came through less than a minute ago. We're to terminate all proceedings immediately. That's impossible, Olivia snapped. There must be some mistake. I wish there were. He looked to the other executives, already standing, already checking their phones, already pulling back as though the air around the stage had become dangerous. Confusion rippled through the ballroom. Photographers lowered their cameras. Champagne toast stalled mid-lift. Someone whispered sharply, "What happened?" Olivia felt her pulse crashing in her ears. No, this doesn't make sense. The CEO would never cancel a deal like this without notice. Who gave the order? Silence answered her. Finally, the representative swallowed. It came from the top. Her heart dropped. The top? She repeated. Yes, ma'am. The words landed with the weight of stone. Executives gathered their laptops. Chairs scraped back across the marble. The glamorous warmth of the light suddenly turned harsh, exposing every crack in her composure. Her assistant rushed forward, phone trembling in her hand. Olivia, something's wrong. We just got an email from Black Elm. About what? Olivia breathed. They're withdrawing all their funding. What? Her voice cracked. They said, and I'm reading this verbatim, effective immediately, all support is terminated. Future communication not required. It came from the director's office. Olivia stared at the screen. The words swam before her eyes. That's not possible. They're our anchor investor. Her assistant's voice was barely steady. Not anymore. The lead representative from Trident closed his folder with finality. I'm very sorry, ma'am. I'm afraid we're done here. Olivia stumbled forward. Wait, no. You can't just walk out. We had an agreement. But he was already halfway to the doors. A few guests watched with pity. Others slipped away as fast as they could, eager to escape the implosion happening in real time. The microphone still hung in front of her, catching every ragged breath. The contract lay open, the signature line untouched. Cameras continued firing, each flash more merciless than the last. Her lover, Daniel, rushed to her side and whispered, "Liv, we need to go. Something's happening. We don't understand it yet." Olivia didn't move. She could only stare at the documents. "No, this was supposed to be mine. They can't just take it." But the ballroom was emptying quickly, voices fading, footsteps scattering, waiters unsure whether to pour or clear. The scent of champagne lingered, now tainted with fear. Across the room, her eyes landed on the floor near the table. The shattered wine glass she'd thrown earlier, red stains soaked into the marble seams, a quiet reminder the moment she'd crossed a line she could never uncross. Her chest tightened. The sound around her blurred into a long, thin ringing. She sank into her chair as the last of the Trident team disappeared through the doors. The applause, the speeches, the lights, gone, as if they had never belonged to her at all. In the cavernous silence, hardly louder than a breath, she whispered one name, Hunter, and somewhere far from that unraveling ballroom, Hunter Caldwell leaned back in the leather seat of his car as the city slid past the window in golden streaks. He let the quiet wrap around him while the first internal alerts from Trident began rolling onto his screen. Inside the hotel, the final laughter died into the clink of glasses, and Olivia Caldwell realized the truth. The empire she built stood on a foundation owned by the man she humiliated. Hunter drove through the calm streets of Highland Park, windows slightly open, letting the cool night air brush past him. No music, no calls, just the hum of the engine and a steady heartbeat. At a red light, he loosened his tie. The faint, sour scent of dried wine clung to his collar, but he didn't bother changing. The light turned green. He kept driving. He pulled into the driveway. The motion sensor lights lit the house in a warm, peaceful glow. Everything inside waited exactly as he left it. Quiet, immaculate. He hung his jacket, walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, let the silence settle like a familiar friend. Then his phone buzzed. A message from Pierce. Both orders executed. Another from Hayes. All funds withdrawn. Hunter took a slow sip, exhaled. The storm had begun, and this time he was the one who controlled the lightning. By morning, the market would react. The ripples would turn into waves. Hunter didn't bother replying to the final text confirming it. He simply set the glass in the sink, turned off the kitchen light, and walked down the quiet hallway. In the bedroom, he loosened his cuffs, sat on the edge of the bed, and let his eyes wander to the dark skyline outside. Then, without a second thought, he lay back. Sleep found him easily. Across the city, Olivia Caldwell was not sleeping. She sat frozen in the back row of the deserted ballroom, her hands shaking, the bright stage light still burning in her memory. The stunned faces, the whispers, the representative's voice repeating like a broken loop. The order came from the top. "Liv, come on. You can't stay here," Daniel whispered beside her. She didn't move. Her lipstick was a faint outline now. The elegant curls she'd walked in with it collapsed around her shoulders. The white dress she had chosen to symbolize triumph was now streaked with dull red stains. The same wine she had thrown without thinking. "Olivia," Daniel said again, gentler this time. "Let's go. You're in shock." She blinked slowly, voice breaking. Everything just stopped. "I know," he murmured. "Come on, let me get you out of here." He helped her to her feet, guiding her past the tables, past the wilted centerpieces, past a few lingering reporters still trying to piece together the chaos of the night. Camera flashes flickered from across the hall, distant, curious, unforgiving. Daniel opened the door of his sedan, settled her inside, then drove through the quiet streets without a word. The city light slid across the window beside her, smearing across the glass like bruises. When they reached his apartment, he guided her inside. She sank onto the couch, still in her heels, hands trembling in her lap. Daniel brought her water and set it on the table, but she didn't touch it. She only stared at the tiny ripples on its surface, as if the world might steady if the water did. "It'll make sense in the morning," he offered weakly. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "It already doesn't." He didn't argue. He turned off the lights, leaving only the faint city glow leaking through the curtains. When he looked back at her, she was still sitting in the same spot, shaking, replaying one voice in her mind over and over. "Enjoy the celebration, Olivia. You'll need the light where you're going." Sometime before sunrise, exhaustion dragged her into sleep. Her makeup was smudged. Her phone was still in her hand. But by then, the world had already chosen her headline. By morning, the screen lit up again and again, buzzing with the kind of notifications that meant a life was collapsing in real time. Daniel stood at the window, face pale. "Liv, you should see this." She sat up, groggy, eyes swollen from tears she couldn't remember shedding. "What is it?" He turned his phone around. Every major business outlet screamed the same story. Trident cancels $800 million partnership minutes before signing anchor investor pulls every dollar from Caldwell Design Group CO, humiliates husband on stage. Deal vanishes 10 minutes later. Olivia's eyes swept over the headlines. Each one hit like a punch. She opened her own phone. Hundreds of unread messages. Dozens of missed calls. Social media already flooded with videos, her laughter, the splash of wine, the silence after. Someone had filmed everything. One clip, slowed down, zoomed in, captured the wine, leaving her glass in a perfect crimson arc, hitting Hunter's face before he turned away. The caption burned. She poured wine on her husband at her own signing. 10 minutes later, the deal disappeared. Her hands trembled. No, this can't be real." Daniel exhaled. "It's everywhere, Liv." She pressed her palms against her forehead. The room felt too bright, too sharp, too small. Across town, Hunter Caldwell woke naturally. No alarm, no rush, no noise but the quiet hum of morning. He stretched, walked to the kitchen, and poured a glass of water. The glass from a night before still sat on the counter. Faint fingerprints smudged along the rim. He drank slowly, watching sunlight crawl across the floor. His phone vibrated once. Trending alerts, news headlines, his name surfacing in places it stayed hidden for years. He didn't open them. Then a doorbell. One chime. Then another. Hunter set down the glass and walked to the door. When he opened it, Olivia stood there. Her eyes were swollen, her lipstick gone. The elegant white dress from the night before now creased, dull, and wrinkled around the edges of her unraveling world. She looked like someone who had run out of excuses long before she'd run out of tears. "Hunter," she whispered, "can I come in?" He didn't speak. He simply stepped aside. She walked in slowly, heels tapping softly against the hardwood, her arms wrapped around herself as if trying to hold on to the pieces of her life. For a long moment, she didn't talk. She just stood there, staring at the floor, gathering the courage to lift her head. When she finally looked at him, her voice was barely a breath. "Everything's gone wrong," she whispered. "The contract, the investors, everything. It's like the entire world flipped overnight." Hunter said nothing. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. "I don't understand," she said, trying to steady her shaking voice. "One minute we were celebrating, and the next, the representatives stopped me. They said the order came from above, from the very top." She forced a shaky smile, the kind built from denial, not hope. "You know how these things go. Probably a misunderstanding, right? Someone messed up the paperwork or sent the wrong instruction. It'll clear up. It has to." Hunter's face didn't change. Olivia exhaled shakily, pressing her fingers to her temples as she paced the room, her voice crumbling with each step. And then the emails started flooding in, sharp, cold, merciless. Black Elm pulled every cent overnight. Her accounts froze. The stocks nosedived. And the press was already circling her name, like vultures waiting for a fresh headline. "Hunter, I don't even know where to begin," she whispered, her voice shaking like thin glass on the edge of breaking. He still didn't say a word. She searched his face for comfort, because that was what she always did when the world collapsed beneath her feet. I didn't know where else to go, she breathed. I needed you. Hunter poured her a glass of water and sat on the table between them, gentle, distant, unreadable. You didn't sleep? He said quietly. I couldn't. She held the glass with trembling fingers, but it stayed untouched. It's bad, Hunter. Really bad. I've never seen anything like this. It's like someone just flipped a switch and my whole life disappeared. He watched her for a long, still moment. Someone, he asked. She nodded, desperate. I don't know who. Maybe a competitor. Maybe the board. I'll figure it out. I came to you. Like I always do. Hunter moved to the window, morning light tracing the edges of his face, painting him in soft gold. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, almost too calm. That's what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. She blinked, confused. What do you mean? He turned toward her. I gave the order. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. You what? Her voice cracked open as she stared at him. You did this. He didn't flinch. Trident doesn't work with arrogance. And Black Elm doesn't invest in people who publicly humiliate their own partners. Her lips trembled. Trident, Black Elm. Her voice barely held together. Hunter, don't tell me. You never wondered where your funding came from, he said softly. Or who owned the company you were so desperate to impress. Her knees buckled. I believed in you, he continued, his voice steady, almost mournful. I built your company from behind the curtain. Every investor, every introduction, every check. You got it because of me. I wanted to help you rise. But last night, you showed me exactly how you see me. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. You didn't care to know. She shook her head, stepping closer. Hunter, I was angry. I said things I shouldn't have. Please, let me fix this. Let me talk to whoever I need to. I'll apologize. I'll rebuild. You can't fix this, he said. Please, she whispered, her voice tiny and breaking. Don't do this. Don't let me lose everything. You can pull the order back. Just call them. He exhaled, slow, heavy. You poured wine on me in front of an entire room. Olivia. You called me poor. You told me I didn't belong beside you. And the entire city watched. He stepped closer, his expression still calm, almost heartbreakingly calm. Tell me, which part of that do you want to undo first? She broke, grabbing his arm, sobbing. Hunter, please. I was stupid. I let my pride talk. I love you. He looked at her hand, then gently moved it away. You love what I gave you, he said quietly. Not me? That's not true, she pleaded. He picked up the empty glass on the counter, placing it in the sink with a soft clink. You once told me I didn't belong in your world, he said. You were right. She flinched as if he had struck her. No, please, we can start over. I'll change. I'll leave the company. I'll do anything. You can't start over from something you burned yourself, he said, voice. Final. And you won't get a second chance at what I protected. She stared at him, shaking. What do you mean? The trust, he said simply. Everything I own, every company, every share, is an irrevocable trust one created before we married. You can't touch a dime. Not in divorce. Not in settlement. Not in court. Her breath caught in her throat. You're divorcing me? I've already called my lawyer. The words hollowed her out from inside. She stumbled back, gripping the couch, barely standing. Hunter, please, she sobbed. I'll sign anything. Just don't leave me with nothing. He looked at her, eyes steady, voice low. You already left yourself with nothing. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. The silence between them pressed in, thick, suffocating. Outside, a small bird landed on the window ledge, wings catching the morning light before flying away again, free, unbothered. She collapsed to her knees, her sobs echoing through the stillness. Please, Hunter, I'm begging you. I can't do this alone. He looked at her one last time, expression unreadable, voice firm. You should have thought of that before you threw wine on the man who built your future. He turned away, walked down the hall, and quietly closed the bedroom door behind him. Olivia stayed there on the floor, her cries filling the empty house. The glass of water sat untouched on the table, sunlight glinting off its surface like a silent reminder of everything she'd lost. For the first time, she finally understood what silence meant, the silence that remains when forgiveness leaves a room.